Hi Michael,
Howdy.
thanks for taking the time to do this little interview for Shred Knowledge. And
Thank you.
how are you doing?
Good, mate. Good. No, it's great to do something with you guys because Mark was always the first one to sort of put up his hand to help out. So, this is absolutely an honour for me to be sort of doing some stuff with you guys once again. It's been a while.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you, Michael.
Yeah, awesome.
So, well, we're just beginning a new year, and
Yep.
maybe a good way to start would be just to let the Shred Knowledge readers know what you were up to during
Yep.
2011.
Yep.
What excited you most?
In 2011, I think the highlight for me was doing the run of masterclasses that I did and seeing the response, which was great. So that for me, that was really satisfying, to just get out there and do my thing, do what I do and enjoy it, and that was, for me, that was definitely the highlight. There was other things that sort of worked its way around what I was sort of doing when I was doing the master classes at the time. Always sort of doing the around town gigs and the artist gigs and whatever sort of else comes up. But it was always a great thing to go back and do the master classes. I sort of did a little sort of chunk at the start, then sort of had a little bit of a break, and then sort of got back into it and did a big run, and that was it. So I'm hoping to do some more this year coming up and release a new album. So that's what I'm sort of crossing the fingers for.
Good, very good. Now the masterclass
Yep.
that you took on the road. What sort of material were you presenting, and how was it received?
It was basically I sort of just came up with I mean at this time I'm noticing, well, at this time last year I was sort of noticing, a lot of guys were sort of online that were sort of getting right into the funk fusion thing. So I sort of went on that trail, and I love playing this stuff. So I sort of took it out there, and it was purely based around the one chord vamp and getting the most out of the one chord vamp, and but at the same time keeping it really simple. A real simple approach. The way I sort of learnt, which was basically always relate things back to what you already know, and not get too sort of involved in um, you know certain harmony, as far as like, this is flat and this is sharpened and so on. I purely always sort of relate things back to what I know, and sort of just add little things as I go, sort of build on that. And that was the main point I was trying to get across to everyone. It wasn't just a bunch of licks, take this home and away you go. It was about, my approach and everything like that. But at the same time, it was very satisfying. Um, Noticing within the first half an hour that people were sort of taking on board what I was giving them, and by the end of the couple of hours, they were, it was great just to see them play. The last jam at the end, and it's funny because you hear them at the start and then you hear them at the end, and it's just great to hear, the stuff that you're teaching sort of, taking its toll on people that are sort of there. So that was really satisfying. So yeah, it was received really well. Got some great feedback from it. So yeah, I just sort of went with what I knew and sort of didn't do anything out of the ordinary. I didn't go there and try and you know sort of give people false pretenses, so to speak. In the sense of going, showing them things that I don't really use. So it was purely the way I approach things. It was honest, and it worked. So it worked for me too because it sort of honed up on my skills.
Yeah. And I take it that honesty obviously comes through when you do anything.
Exactly, exactly, mate. And it's just, I'm all about that. I'm not here to sort of pretend or anything like that. I just, if I can share some stuff that you know, the way I sort of approach things, if it works for other people, then great. If it doesn't, there's no harm in, in sort of sharing your knowledge and stuff like that. But, you're always going to get someone that doesn't sort of get into it. But I mean, most of the guys that were there were guys that had already heard me play anyhow. So it made things a little easier because they were there to sort of, that's what they wanted to take on board, basically my approach, and and that was awesome.
Yeah, cool. Now I understand it was only in Australia you were playing it last year, the masterclass. It was all the dates were in Australia. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it was around Australia, and it was through one of the major stores, which is called Billy Hyde's. Um, Actually, they're amalgamated now, so it's Allen's Billy Hyde's, and they sort of helped me out heaps. They were doing all the promo for me. It was awesome. They were really great, and that's what sort of kicked it off because I sort of did one with them. I did a few before I sort of jumped on board with those guys. I sort of did a few just on my own back, and then I sort of approached Alan's Billy Hyde's, and then they took it on, and they just basically, you know, put all the masterclasses all around Australia, and I was stoked with that. So I went with it, and we had I ended up doing probably about 25, 26 dates around Australia, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's
You
great.
know, yeah.
Now you were talking about maybe doing some more this year. Do you think that maybe you would take the masterclass to other countries, maybe? Or
I
this?
would love to do that. I would love to do that, but at the moment, um, I mean, the call isn't really there at the moment. I don't really have a fan base. That I don't think it'd be worth my while sort of coming over. I don't think I get enough emails to sort of go come over. So I wouldn't sort of risk the budget to sort of come over. But hopefully in the future, once people sort of hopefully get into my plane a little bit more, who knows, who knows. But at the moment, I'll sort of stick to Australia
Yeah,
and hopefully do what I can here. And the other thing there's all the work that I've sort of got to give up to sort of come over. But I mean, it wouldn't hurt to sort of come over for a couple of weeks, I suppose. And if you know of anyone that could help me out, maybe
yeah. Well,
might
it's,
be.
it's definitely something I would like to, something that I would like to see. So no, I will keep my ears open.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Now at the master classes, am I right in saying that you were playing some material from your Everything Till Now album?
Yeah, there was some classes that it was weird because I wasn't there to sort of at the same time I didn't want to sort of go, oh, here I am, and now I'm gonna play some songs for you. Because people were paying good money to sort of sit in on the classes, I wanted to sort of not waste any time, waste any of their time and their money by sort of me sitting there and playing a few tunes. So there was some classes that I'd play. Um, I sort of went with the vibe. If I thought it was appropriate, I might do two at the end of the class. I might do one at the start of the class. Sometimes I didn't do any at all, you know. So because basically as soon as the guys get there, it's just like, you know, it's all jam. They're there to jam, and I'm not there to sort of go, you know, this is me. My albums are there. If they want to buy one, they can hear it then, and then, you know, if they ask for it, I'll play a track. I always have my backing tracks with me, but I didn't make a habit of it. It was specifically work, so to
Yeah.
speak, enjoyable work.
So what about playing the tracks from the album with a live band? Is that something that you've thought about or did?
Well, I've actually played tracks with um, with a couple of different lineups with different bands and stuff, but it's never been a Michael Dolce show. It's always been, someone else's gig and we'll throw one of my songs in, or it's been an amalgamation. I did a fair few of some install gigs slash clinics with Jeremy Barnes, who's another great Australian guitar player. He's absolutely awesome. Um, and we did just a little run of install um, live band sort of stuff as well, and we sort of threw in, a couple of my tunes and one of his tunes, and then we just whatever else. We just did a whole bunch of covers that we just loved playing, everything from John Scofield to well, I can't remember, but we had so much fun with it. So yeah, I've played my tunes live, but I haven't. I released the album 2 years ago now. My goodness, due for a new one. But yeah, I've never had an album launch for it, um, purely for the purpose of I don't. I never wanted to do an album launch where I had to force my friends to come and see me play, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then charge them a door, an entry fee for me to pay my band. So I didn't want to do it on those terms. I always said to myself, if I'm ever going to do a gig under the Michael Dolce brand, it will have to be, at the point of my playing career where I know there's going to be people coming to see me play as opposed to all my friends supporting me, which is a good thing anyway. But that's the way I am. I wouldn't put it through them.
So you were saying about a new album. Is this something that's going to be released this year, or?
I'm hoping to release it this year, which I will. I definitely will release it this year. I had when was it? I think it was back in November. I sort of thought, okay, it's time to write a new album, and I sat down for a couple of weeks, and I ended up writing. It was very sporadic, but I sort of do like an hour or a couple of hours here and there over the space of 2 weeks, and almost wrote an album's worth of songs, which are just sitting, in my Cubase sessions on my computer at the moment. They haven't sort of gone beyond the writing process, but the songs are complete in the writing forms, and the way I feel the songs are going to sound once I get the band in. So it's just a matter of getting the band in and doing it basically. It's yeah, it's going to be a little different to everything till now, so I hope it doesn't disappoint. um, Various people.
Is it a more Well, it would be hard to be more diverse than everything till now, but are you going?
Yeah, the title says it all, I suppose. It was just the whole essence of me sort of capturing everything that I've loved playing up to that point. So I never wanted to make an album that had various styles, because it's just styles that I've loved playing over the years, and styles that I've been forced to play over the years, various artists and stuff like that, and sessions. And I've just always had that, in my heart to sort of, record. I thought, well, should I do a country album? Should I do, you know, a bluesy fusion thing? And I thought, oh, I might as well just put them all on there. But I think this next album will be a little bit more stylistic, in the sense of it'll be what I'm feeling, which is at this particular point in time is a little different to what I was feeling back then, a couple of years back.
What sort of sound do you think you would be going for in the new? How
Well,
is it sounding?
the way the songs have been written, they're sort of they've still got that fusion element in there, as I love the nothing too sort of difficult, but it definitely has a little bit more Robin Ford sort of blues sort of fusion orientated sort of vibe to it. It's almost like I'm not too sure if you're familiar with my album, but the first track, which is I've got to go. It's almost that style throughout, but it's there's a lot of different tracks and different vibes and stuff. But I'm really excited about it. I'm loving the way it's taking shape. So hopefully it sort of comes out the way I'm sort of envisioning the way it should be. But who knows what it'll turn out to be at the end.
Yeah, well, I look forward to checking it out when it's released.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for that. Looking
Um,
forward to finishing.
Now, when you were talking about your Cubase sessions and the writing process, is the writing
Yeah.
process something that is kind of the same for you all the time, or do ideas come to you in various different ways, or how do you approach songwriting?
Well, when I sit down and write a song, whether it be, just a sporadic spurt of writing, I will basically, I always only write on an acoustic guitar. I'll never pick up my electric guitar to write on it, because I find when I pick up the acoustic, I write more like a songwriter as opposed to a guitarist trying to write a song, if you know what I mean. When I pick up the electric guitar, all these fancy ideas end up coming out, and it becomes, um, it becomes too sort of complicated. Where if you hear everything till now, it's quite it's more when you hear it, is more structure to the songs like it's more like a pop song as opposed to trying to write a fusion song. It's yeah, there's form to it, and it's not so blah.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense to you. But I find when I do get on the acoustic guitar, it forces me to just write simple tunes, um, and be a lot more melodic. And then and that's all I ever do. I'll put down a groove that I'm feeling, and I'll lay down the melody, and I'll lay down the chords purely on acoustic, no bass guitars, anything to set up grooves or anything like that. I'll just do it like that, and that's it. And the song will not be touched until I've actually got the band doing their parts, and then the flavors will start I'll end up sort of recording drums. The drummer will play purely to the acoustic tracks, no bass. That way I know he'll be creative as opposed to trying to stick to something that I've already recorded. So in hindsight, I always want the guys that play to bring their own flavors to the recording, and that's and it definitely does work for me writing like that. I don't go into keyboard program or anything like that because, like a lot of writers, and I'm sure a lot of writers out there would agree, that you sort of start writing tunes and you program stuff up, and then you've got this full production going with program drums and program bass, and then you end up getting the players in, and then what you end up doing is you basically end up making them play what you've programmed, and it never ends up sounding the way you want it. So the old demo-itis kicks in, and you end up going, "Oh bugger it, I'll just leave the program drums, and so on." So I avoid that whole process. I just keep it raw and easy and really, you know, simple. That way I know whatever they bring to the table is going to make it sound good, even better.
Yeah.
It's an exciting process for me that way.
It's an interesting process because nowadays most players seem to, just like you're saying, people seem to think that playing guitar isn't enough. You've got to become a master at programming and all the newest plugins, and it kind of takes away from just playing the guitar.
Well, that's exactly it. I feel that if I write if the song's good enough and the melody's good enough, the song will carry through. Everything else is the icing on the cake. Once I go to lay the electric guitars, it just becomes so much easier to play over a good song. Where if I write on the electric and it's a half decent song, I just won't have the heart to finish it. So I make sure my motto is, if it sounds good on acoustic guitar, if you can get a song to sound good on acoustic guitar, it's only going to get better once you add production to it.
Yeah, cool. Now, obviously, I've heard you talking before about the importance of finding your own sound, and just what you're saying right now about your writing process is making me think that maybe that's your full kind of ethos. And has that always been the most important thing when you were developing as a player, just finding your own sound and keeping it simple?
Yeah, definitely. I've always come from the school of, and I've said this in many times before, where, I came from the school of listening to, the Shadows, music of the Shadows, which is just simple guitar. The songs, when you hear the guitar melodies and the song structures, it's a pop song without vocals. The guitar sings, the guitar carries the melodies, the structure of the songs are simple. It's very simple, easy to listen to. And I grew up listening to that, and I grew up listening to a lot of country stuff. My dad sort of playing country stuff, and all the stuff he used to listen to was just, the typical 1-4-5 progressions, your Willie Nelsons and, Johnny Cash and stuff like that. And I grew up listening to that and, fell in love with that music, and I still listen to that stuff. There's always stuff that Dad always throws at me. Have a listen to this, have a listen to that, and I love it. I love it. Never get bored of hearing that. So yeah, keeping it simple for me was always, it was just a natural progression. It was never about sort of making it complicated. And then, even with my playing, you know, when it comes to playing electric guitar, I've always kept it simple. I always started off simple, and as I said before, just add little things, really minimal, little things that are strong, you know, but that work for me, but obviously enhance what I already know. So I always keep my ideas small and simple, and then just elaborate on them, and always bring other ideas. I'll always stumble across ideas, you know, and the ones that stick are the ones that you know, obviously that are working for me. That's creating my style. The ones that don't, you know, they never come out naturally. Always the ones that do work come out naturally. So yeah, I think that's where I think a lot of guitarists will, you know, get caught out where they'll. It's great to learn licks and stuff like that. I highly recommend it. It's a great, you know, development skill where if you if you're learning licks of certain players and stuff like that, you need that. You definitely need that. But you know, 99% of the time you'll learn the lick, you'll never use it. You know, in a creative context. If you're at a gig, you'll be just always thinking, how does that lick, how does that phrase go again? And you're just waiting for that one moment. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, here it comes, and you miss it and you stuff it up. If it doesn't come out naturally, it's not there. You know, so I think keeping it simple, you know, and little ideas, and that's what's worked for me. So you know, that's I think that sort of sums it up.
Yeah, the Michael Dolce way.
Yeah, it's such a bodgy way of doing that. I'm not I'm no virtuoso, you know, when it comes to theory and stuff like that. I've always been an ear player, even though I dabbled in theory and got caught up in theory. But then I realised I was getting too involved with the theory side of things, and it was taken away from my playing. So I went back to what I felt was natural for me, which was just do everything by ear. And if this note works over that chord, then play it. If it doesn't, well, bad luck. Don't play it.
If it doesn't, it's jazz.
It's exactly most of my playing. Most of my playing's wrong. So everyone thinks it's jazz, but it's just me not really knowing what the hell to play.
Yeah, you're filling them.
I always get people saying, "Oh, your chromatic runs and stuff like that." Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm thinking, gee, man, I think all I'm doing is moving everything up to semitone and playing every note in between and hoping for the best.
Your fingers.
And it works. Yeah.
Bonus. So obviously, I want to kind of draw a sort of correlation now between your own music and the session work that you do. Now, obviously, it takes more than being a good guitarist to become the guy to call for sessions. Do you think that your kind of a keep it simple sort of strategy has helped when it comes to recording session gigs?
Yeah, that's definitely right. And the thing is, with keeping it simple sessions, I think it's more the fact of being. I've always been a creative type of guy, whether it be playing guitar or making pizzas or pizza ovens, I should
Sorry,
say.
Michael, is there any chance you could repeat that there? The signal kind of broke up for a minute there.
Okay. I can't remember what I said actually. Um, yeah, keeping it simple, whether it be, playing guitar or making pizza ovens, I've always been that creative guy. I'm the hands-on guy where, I love creating things, like I said, whether it be guitar or, building pizza ovens. And I've always taken that approach, with the session side of things. I mean, that's what it requires. Definitely, a lot of the guys that call me, a lot of the producers around town that call me, purely, they call certain guitar players if they want a certain flavour, of creativity. So that's what's worked for me in the sense that, I'll just go in there and I'll just say, play the track, away we go. And I can hear the ideas sort of flowing in my head before I even pick up the guitar. So ready to play, which is sometimes the case, but there's always that element of you play the parts, whatever they want, and then at the end of the session they'll just say, look, play whatever you want and stuff. More times you know, probably about 9 times out of 10, they'll end up using a lot of the parts that I created at the end of the session, because it's just what comes out naturally, and a lot of producers, unless they're guitar players, they won't think like a guitar player. They'll think like a keyboard player, and it just starts sort of sounding a little bit weird. And then when you start playing ideas, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I want, that I was trying to get across. But, the whole simple approach is, it sort of works for me. But I mean, with the session stuff, it's just one of those things. It's more about the creativity than sort of keeping it simple. I mean, keeping it simple is definitely the key thing as well. Not overplaying, but being the whole creativity thing is definitely the thing that works.
Yeah, cool. Now, when you were talking about your keeping it simple, even with pizza ovens, I take it the pizza oven on Facebook is your own creation.
Yeah, correct. I built that pizza oven exactly 5 years ago now, and I built it for the previous World Cup soccer knockouts, which was when Australia got in. The big one 5 years ago. And so I thought, I'm going to build a pizza oven for the big games, and I'm going to get all the boys over, and I'm going to get a flat screen TV, and that's what I did. I got all creative about it.
And it looks like a very good piece of craftsmanship.
Yeah, my pizzas.
Is this your first pizza oven?
My first pizza, yeah, it was my first. Yeah, it is my first pizza oven. And, I'm very passionate. We get our flour. I've got a friend of mine who we only use our flour from Naples. We don't use Australian flour.
Okay. Perfectionism.
I'm very passionate about it.
That's good. Okay, so kind of moving away from pizza ovens and playing, could you talk a bit about the guitar guys on couches and how the idea for that came about?
Guitar guys and couch. Oh, yeah, that was an idea that Chris Brooks sort of came up with. He had this idea, and it was like, we should get together with a couple of guys, myself and Jeremy Barnes, and we sort of spoken about it. And Chris was like, "Man, well, let's just do it." And I was like, "Yeah, well, let's just do it." So we literally set up the camera and we spoke. We just let the camera roll for would have been a couple of hours at least, and before we sort of got together, we all sort of wrote questions that would, raise some good answers, and we just sort of went with the flow. We pressed record and away we went, and we just did it at my house here, and that was it. And then Chris sort of edited the pieces together, and that's what I haven't actually. Is it still on YouTube? I don't even know.
Well, actually, I've not had a chance to watch it because I tried to watch it on your website, but the links seem to be.
Yeah, I actually clicked on it today myself. That's why I asked. It's funny that you asked the question because I haven't seen it for ages, and I went to sort of click on it, and I don't know if it's still there, so I might check that out.
Yeah, that'd be good because I would like to see it, but even just the idea is interesting because it's more like a discussion than it is like this when I'm asking you questions, and whereas the three.
Yeah, exactly. It's just three guys just speaking their mind about certain things. There's some great issues that we released 3 episodes, but I don't know what happened to the rest of them. So I might email Chris and see what's going on there, because see if we can get some more episodes up.
Yeah, that would be cool, and I'm sure that we could stick them up on Shred Knowledge and out to a sort of wider audience.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a great idea.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll almost let you back to your. In fact, it's night time in Australia, isn't it?
Yep, it is exactly 9:38 p.m. So 20 minutes to 10.
Well, I'll almost let you back to your nocturnal evening. But what's next for you? Obviously, you've got the new album that you're wanting to work on.
Yep.
And is there anything that so far in your career you would have liked to have done that you've not had a chance to do yet, or are you just kind of letting it roll out and see what transpires?
Yeah, like I'm that, I like sort of letting things roll, taking each day as it comes. I don't sort of try and set too many goals or anything like that. You know, I just sort of go with what I feel at the time, and I just sort of go with it. Um, that's about it. Yeah, so no real sort of goals for the future in the sense of knowing what I'm going to be doing, but at this particular point, the main thing is obviously finishing this album and getting that out there, and hopefully doing some more master classes, and hopefully that'll it'll extend to a wider and a broader fan base here and around the world, and hopefully do some more stuff with you guys. I haven't actually posted much stuff in the last. I don't know, the last thing I posted would have been probably about 7-8 months ago. It's been ages.
While
It's
ago.
just been caught up doing the thing around here, like just playing with the artists and stuff like that. It's been just flat out. There's some pretty major stuff coming up the first half of this year. Next year, gosh, we're in 2012 already. There's some pretty major stuff coming up the first half of this year, which is going to take pretty much 6 months for me. So hopefully, in between what I'm doing there and mid June, I'll have an album complete.
Very good. Well, most importantly, I hope you have fun with all these endeavours. And well, I'll let you get back to your evening, Michael. But thanks very much for taking the time to do this, and I wish you the best over the next year.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.